Hello, my name is Jack Taylor, and you have reached part 9 of Imagine Christmas. Today we're going to be talking about Joshua, and you probably knew that the Hebrew name for Jesus is Joshua or Yeshua, the one who saves. So it's not surprising that there's a Joshua who takes people into the land that was promised as the start of the Christmas story. The generation of grumblers has passed away, and a new generation is ready to figure out what following God is all about. Maybe you're part of this new generation, or you know people who are in this new generation. Every generation has to battle through something. Today's generation is struggling through sorting out the ramifications of things like wokeness or cancel culture, intersectionality, among other things like gender identity, environmentalism, and truth itself. Facing something new can be intimidating and confusing if you don't have a solid foundation in reality. You really need a word of courage. So when Joshua prepares to engage his battle, he is given these words: Be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land that I swore to their ancestors to give them. Now he's also told to meditate on the truth of the word constantly and to put it into action so that he is prosperous and successful. Finally, he's told not to be discouraged, for the Lord his God would be with him wherever he went. Now, one of his first big challenges is crossing the Jordan and facing Jericho. God promises to prove himself before the people so that Joshua is honored. And Joshua has to communicate a message, and it's this: that as soon as the priests step into the river, into the water, it will stop, and they'd walk across on dry ground. Sound familiar? The problem is this river is in the spring flood stage. It takes incredible faith to speak truth in advance. It takes courage. Well, the priests carrying the symbol of God's presence, they step into the river and it stops. God commands Joshua to have one leader from each tribal group pick up a big rock to pile it together as a memorial of what has happened. And these rocks are going to be a memorial, a sign, and a reminder of what God has done. Now, when you're concerned about what is still ahead, look back on what God has already done to prove himself, and then take another step. Be strong and courageous. Sometimes we need to establish a memorial, a sign, a reminder of what God has already done, because we forget so easily. I do, if you don't. When everyone crossed over, the priest stepped out and the water flowed again. Now, the older generation had seen the Red Sea open up before them. The new generation now saw the Jordan River open during its peak flood time. New generations and new leaders sometimes need to experience new encounters with a God who is always with us. When you've seen God at work, you can face impossible situations like Jericho. Well, if you pay attention to your situation, you may notice an impossible reality in your world. How can you deal with it? The plan God had for Joshua and Jericho hadn't been done before. There was no blueprint. It took getting still before God, accepting a commitment that you are his, and then following his instructions precisely. And that is where our biggest struggle will be. His instructions may not be comfortable or even sensible in dealing with what is standing before you. But getting still enough to hear those instructions may be an even bigger struggle when there's fear and anxiety and guilt and shame and anger and despair niggling at your soul. Now, your name may be Joshua, the one who saves. But God is about proving that he is the one who saves. So waiting and trusting and putting one foot in front of the other, that can be the real battle as you wait for him to act. Today, Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Let's meet again to imagine Christmas as we consider another figure in the Christmas story. God bless you as you try to be strong and courageous.